News Radio 950 KWOS. Welcome to Open Air, local talk for the capital city with Warren Kretsch and John Marsh. Join the conversation at 556-6397. That's 556 News for Open Air on News Radio 950 KWOS.
Good morning and welcome into Monday, the 26th of July. Hope you survived the heat and humidity of the weekend. We're going to be meeting a lot of candidates this week with the August 3rd primary, just over a week away. This hour, we'll be talking with State Senate candidate Mike Kehoe, and we're going to kick things off with the 114th District race and candidate Jay Barnes on the Republican primary ticket. Nobody on the Democrat primary ticket, so this will probably, for all intents and purposes, decide who's going to be our next legislative representative from the 114th District. That would bar write-ins and all that kind of stuff there, right, John?
Pretty much the way it works, but yeah, it sounds like a done deal.
Yeah, sounds like it would be. Jay Barnes joining us this morning on KWOS Open Air. And Jay, good morning. Welcome in.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You bet. Nice to have you here. First of all, has it been a learning experience for you with this campaign? I think this is your first time around politics, is it not?
It has definitely been a learning experience. You know, I've helped out with some other campaigns. I was a policy director on Kenny Holzhoff's campaign for governor. And somebody else who's kind of in my position where they've helped out with campaigns in the past and now they're on the ballot called me the other day and said, man, I didn't realize the difference between working on a campaign and being the candidate. He said there's this psychic weight on you as the candidate that it never leaves your mind, and when you're working on a campaign, you go home at night and campaign will leave your mind and you can focus on something else. But as my wife will tell you, I've been a little bit, I've worked hard and I've worked a lot on the campaign.
It becomes a family affair, doesn't it, when you're running for office?
That's exactly right. And Jane was full steam ahead at the start, and she's still full steam ahead right now, even though she is 9.5 months pregnant, and our second child is due August 19th. So we've got two big deadlines coming up. The bigger deadline is on August 19th.
That's right. Keeps everything in perspective.
You're absolutely right. No matter what happens on August 3rd, you know, sometime soon, maybe even before August 3rd, we're going to have just an incredible event in our lives and welcome a new baby into the world. So.
You said you had worked behind the scenes with Kenny Holzhoff, and what was it that made you just kind of want to go? I want to be the guy out there. I want to be the candidate out there. What was it made you jump into this?
I never thought I would do it, but it really was a concern about the future of our community. We go to IC, and every time we drive by the old prison, I'd complain to my wife, Jane, until one day she said, finally, well, stop complaining to me. Do something about it. And I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, running for state representative is the best thing to do to get something accomplished there. Now, there are a lot of other challenges our community faces, as I'm sure you're aware, and a lot of listeners are aware. The Chamber did a survey. We've lost 14% of our population between the ages of 25 and 44 in the last 8 years. That is an absolutely astonishing demographic loss rate that puts us on the way to ghost town status if we don't turn it around and turn it around right now. And that's my main focus in running for this office.
That was one of the big points that you make in your advertising, isn't it?
That's right. And the chamber demographic survey or whatever came out months after I decided to run, but you can ask anyone my age or probably anyone your age. This is a fact we knew anecdotally to a certainty. We didn't need the chamber survey to tell us, but the chamber survey gives us the numbers that just shows how astonishing that loss rate is.
Well, now, you personally, you're an attorney. You've got a good practice going here in Jefferson City. What will you do for all these young people to try to keep them here in town?
Well, I think it starts with the old prison. You know, we've got a once-in-a-century opportunity there. We've got an opportunity to build a tourist attraction that's a world-class tourist attraction, and I think it starts right there. If we can get some new businesses in there, and I think it's an attractive place. We've got some demographic facts that are to our advantage. We have a higher median income than Columbia. We have a very educated workforce. Jefferson City and Cole County have a lot to offer potential employers adding new jobs here. and we've got a great location and, tons of potential down there. We need to take advantage of it.
How would you do that from a seat in the House?
Well, the state owns the property right now. And this is nothing against the Nixon administration, because it's true of Republican administrations too. The people who make the decisions as to what happens with the land at the prison are political appointees that aren't from our community. We have to get them out of the process, because I'm not saying they don't have good intentions, but they just don't have the long-term interest that stakeholders here in Cole County have. And so I want a way to get the state out of the property and start having local stakeholders make real decisions as to what happens with that land.
You might be bumping heads with some people on that deal.
Well, I'm not afraid to bump heads.
Jay, you were talking about keeping young people, presumably young professionals in the community. Is it one of those cases, and I think you could probably speak to it as well as anybody, that a lot of the young professionals who seem to stay in communities like this are people who are in family businesses? You're in practice with your dad and all. Is that a big factor?
That is a big factor for people who stay. I heard somebody recently say, my generation chooses where to live first and then they look for a job. I think that's true. So we have to find ways to make our community more attractive to people like that. And as a state representative, the one issue where that matters so much is the old prison. The other issue is state employees. We're ranked 50th in the country in state employee pay. That's an embarrassment to our state. We're behind Mississippi. We've got to turn that around, and it makes no sense that we're that low ranked. And we saw this morning the new news is that health care cuts. That's embarrassing too. State employees aren't the ones who caused the current budget crisis, yet they're the ones bearing the brunt of all the costs right now, and I don't think that's right.
Well, and it's apparently going to get worse next year with an even bigger budget shortfall. You would be replacing Republican Bill Deacon, who for a number of years was really kind of at odds with his own party on that. How would you approach that when so many Republicans, particularly outstate Republicans, just take such a hard look at those state jobs?
Well, I'd note that it's a Democratic governor who's doing the majority of the cuts right now, so it's a bipartisan deal. I don't think that there's a conflict between being a Republican and standing up for state employees. You've got to look at the facts on the ground. If our state employees were paid more than the state employees in California and New York and had the highest salaries in the country, I don't think it'd be appropriate to stand up and yell and scream about how low their salaries are. But when you're 50th out of 50th and you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, that's a completely different story. And you talk about, corporations pay. The most profitable and successful corporations in the world don't pay their employees the lowest salaries in the world. Google doesn't run a sweatshop. Neither did Ford at the turn of the 20th century.